Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the ability to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host Mike Lepre, here with my co-host Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This is episode 74 of Screwball, following an exciting trade deadline week. Obviously an exciting week of baseball and news. We come back down a little bit to reality here with a little bit lesser of a news week, especially compared to the trade deadline news. Nothing will really ever compare to that except for the offseason. But this week we come, with some cool little news pieces here, some stuff that could affect the future of baseball. And, before we get into that, though, let's get into our topic of conversation as we usually have each week. And this week is, I think, a pretty good one that I didn't expect. But, it was really prevalent in modern baseball and probably baseball the last, 10, 15 years. But that revolves around pitch counts and innings limits and pitch limits and being more restrictive on pitchers as opposed to the old days of baseball where they would basically just throw until their arm fell off. So as we usually do, I'll let Frank kind of lead us off here and kick off the conversation because he brings our topic of conversations to the episode. So yeah, what are you kind of thinking with this topic here?
Yeah, like I said, the topic I want to bring up here is the pitch limits, innings limit, pitch count. Do we kind of agree with it, or is it a good thing? I think some sort of limit is not a bad thing. The pitch count, I think, is one that doesn't make all that much sense because, if you do 100 pitches through 5 innings and there's guys on base, it's a hard-worked 5 innings, hard-worked 100 pitches. If you're smooth sailing, you're up 5-0, you guys give up 2 hits, you're not walking anybody, no one's on base, and you're throwing 120 pitches, it's a smooth sailing 120. So you got to see how it works, too, and then it matters. Big time. I've seen the Yankees. Garrett Cole threw 130-something pitches.
Yep.
The next game, he threw 100 pitches again. So you got to see what's going on too, because a lot of times you wouldn't let a guy go over 100 pitches, but then the playoff comes, you let him throw 140. It's like,
That's
well,
true.
what are you setting yourself up for? If you're gonna be able to use them like that in the playoffs, you should use them like that in the regular season, at least once or twice. So, get the idea of it. Same with relief pitchers. You'll have guys pitch 2-3 innings, have the bullpen, a closer. But the regular season, they throw 1 inning, and they won't even throw them back-to-back days.
Yep.
But now you want him to throw 4 games in a row in the playoffs. It's like, how do you expect him to, you don't know what you're getting out of.
Yeah.
He's just a wild card. So pitch counts obviously matters what's going on. It's not a bad thing, obviously. There's no reason for a guy to throw 150 pitches every game unless he's just going nuts. Or CC at 1 year at the Brewers.
Oh, my God, yeah.
He do 8 complete games in a row. Innings limit, we're going to see this year a lot because last year guys threw 60 innings, 100 innings, whatever it was. So they're not going to, there's going to be inning limits. So they're going to cut down on it. It makes sense. You're coming off an injury. No reason to through Chama John, and you had a year and a half off like last now. We'll come back eventually. There's no reason to bring him right out and throw 230 innings with him, especially early in the year. Maybe work him slower inning limits and go from there. But, you could say it all works out, but, Strasburg never worked.
Nope.
He's hurt now. He's hurt more than any other pitcher in MLB. I think damn near history. He's hurt every other start with some sort of major injury. So that never worked. Then you got guys like Verlander who never really was on an inning limit. And that worked. He's Tommy John now. He's 39 years old. CC. It worked. There's never an inning limit with him. So you can say there's cases for each of them. But, I think it's more of a standard practice. It doesn't make sense. I think the Rays, they kind of beat you over the head with it a little too much. But your bullpen, they don't. Bullpen, they'll just fire them out there.
Yeah,
Your starting pitchers are like, whoa, you're only allowed to go 4 innings and throw 60 pitches. Or, they'll take a guy out in the middle of an inning because he's at 65 pitches. They don't want him to throw 65 pitches. Well, he only needs 1 more out. What's 5 more pitches? He ain't going to blow his arm out. And if he does blow his arm out, then he was blowing his arm out the next start or in his bullpen session in between weeks, or in between starts, I should say. Your arm's going to get hurt at that certain time no matter what.
Right.
Now, if you stress it too much, that's a different story. But throwing 60 pitches to 65 pitches, isn't going to make or break your arm. You know, there's things about putting rules in for pitch limits, almost like Little League. When you only throw 100 pitches or whatever. That's I don't think that makes any sense at all. But for young pitchers or, you know, guys who never, weren't in professional baseball, they didn't play 100-game seasons. College, you played 40-game seasons or whatever. So you weren't tacking up these innings. Does it make sense to slowly move them along? Yes. Coming off an injury? Sure. But just to have a hard count and be like, nope, you can't throw this amount of pitches or you don't want to throw this amount of innings, it doesn't make sense. With the topic you're going to see, because obviously we've seen it in the last 10 years of baseball, but also this year, especially because of the shortened season last year. You're going to run into guys who threw 100 innings last year, but now you're at, most guys are at 100 innings at this point, 120. Yep. So if you're talking, all right, now I want to throw 170 innings, but last year you only threw 90 or 100, are you going to see fatigue? Are you going to see, arms dragging? You're going to see arm injuries? We'll see. But that, again, that's a special case. We only seen a shortened season, I don't know, once in the last, since the last strike in 94?
Yep.
It's definitely something to take it over. I remember watching the game, there was no pitch count on the screen. Now it's almost the biggest thing on the screen. It's a pitch count. So, like I said, it all comes down to, you pick and choose. But the big thing with pitch counts is how you got to those 100 pitches. It's 5 innings, you're working. Obviously, it's a hard 5 innings. It's hard 100 pitches. If you're smooth sailing, you throw 115 pitches, it's smooth sailing. There's no one on base. You're not sweating. You're not in a close game, whatever it's going on. You don't have to, you're not stressed out. You're not as, in the moment, like play in a World Series game or something. Every pitch is hard.
Yep.
So I think it comes down to that and the pitch innings. I mean, it's just to have a standard franchise like the Rays have like a standard, almost like our standard how they do things with pitching. It just doesn't seem to make too much sense. And it bothered, as we've seen Blake Snell, bothered him. And I think it cost him a World Series. Just doesn't make sense to have that standard. That's how we do things all the time.
Right.
I don't think so, at least.
No.
Me. But again, the Rays went to the World Series and they seem to keep punching out pitchers. So, but I don't know. I just don't think that's the way things work.
No, you see that mightily backfire on them with Blake Snell, like you said, and the first thing that both of us thought of was the Steven Strasburg situation. That didn't work out.
And they lost the World Series. They lost the playoff series.
Right.
So your player got hurt. I guess you could say, it worked out. They ended up winning the World Series with him. But he's hurt more now than he's ever been hurt.
Right.
Now he's got thoracic outlet syndrome, which is almost a shutdown in the career. He's had Tommy John. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to do what, They could have definitely used him that year. More sparingly, maybe. But definitely could have used him.
Right.
20 more innings. What was 20 more innings that put on him?
Yeah, it wasn't going to...
He already got thoracic outlet syndrome. So it didn't work.
No. Got him his contract, after the World Series. So he's all right. But yeah, I think a lot of pitch counts, like a lot of things in baseball, should be a case-by-case basis. If you have a guy like Cole out there that he can throw like that, and he's going to pitch as dominant, like he can, then it's fine. Or you got a guy like Chris Sale now coming off, even though he got Tommy John, a guy that just slings the ball in there and can pitch really till his arm falls off. I think that there's guys that are designed to pitch like that. But like you said, if there's guys that struggle to get through 5-6 innings, or there's even guys, high strikeout guys, that sometimes their pitch count gets elevated because they're, or even a guy like Robbie Ray, high strikeout, high walk, so their pitch count gets elevated. Then you just eyeball it. Then you say, well, he's around 100 pitches. How's he looking out there? Is he, does he look like he's laboring? Does he look like he's really, like these guys that still have no idea what he's throwing? Then it becomes a little bit. I think that a lot of modern baseball gets lost on that, a little bit of the eyeball. Watch the player.
Yeah.
I think
90
that
pitches, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, let's just start getting warmed up. Let's be ready for it. But it's like he's smooth sailing 90 pitches. It's the 6th, 7th inning.
Right.
He's smooth sailing.
Yeah.
There's no reason to, get up in arms.
Yeah. All of a sudden he starts walking a guy or two, then you start getting a guy stretched out, and you see what happens.
Or he starts throwing his fastballs high, missing location. That's usually your first sign.
Yeah.
But if he's smooth sailing, 90 pitches, that shouldn't be the issue. He's smooth sailing. Let him go.
Yeah.
Unless he comes to you, unless there's a destined plan, like we've seen Santana, Johan, he hurt his arm after he threw like 150 pitches, 140 pitches and a no-hitter. He obviously coming off arm issues. I remember Terry Collins, though, he mentioned, he's like, hey, I went up to him. And it was almost, I'm not sure the exact circumstances or what was exactly what was said, but I think pretty much it came down to, it was like, hey, you want this? Go get it. But this is all you.
Yeah.
Like, you get hurt, It's not on me.
Yeah.
You know?
This is your moment. Yeah.
And that's okay to give them their ultimatum too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't want them to get hurt. Or you don't want to lose their guy because you want to win. And players are never really going to give you too much of the right answer.
No, they'll want to
special
throw.
moment there. This is you. If you want it, you take it. But really, I'll give you what my 2 cents here. We should pull you, whatever. But listen, if you get hurt, hey, it's your call.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like me keeping you out there. And I get you hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
They said that with Dusty Baker, the Cubs, Kerry Wood, and Mark Pryor. He kind of used them, and then they both got hurt. People they thought Dusty Baker was the one that ended their careers because he kept using them. But I don't know the behind the scenes with that one, but it's that kind of concept. Where it's like, hey, if you're coming to me, you want to pitch, Matt Harvey, Terry Collins in the World Series.
Yeah, he wanted to be out there.
There was no way you were taking, there was almost no way you were taking him out.
Right.
Even though if he wasn't going to finish the inning, you were losing the game.
Right.
But there was almost no way you were taking him out. Did those 10 pitches, that inning, was that the reason Matt Harvey's where he is today? I don't think so.
No, those 10 pitches specifically, no.
No. Especially because they would have threw them 10 pitches, they would have won that game, they win the World Series. His career is probably on a different path as well.
Sure.
As of the Mets and Terry Collins and everybody else. So, I don't think a 10-pitch, 15-pitch, I don't think that's what's going to hurt your arm. It's because you pitched them 10 pitches today and not 10 pitches 3 days from now.
Yeah.
If your arm's like a rubber band, if it's going to blow, it's going to blow.
Yeah.
Like your Achilles or your knee, if it's going to go, it's going to go. It just happens. Sometimes you
Right.
get hit different, or you stop and it jolts yourself, Acuna, something like that. That's a little bit different. But just the idea of throwing and all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh. Well, that's going to happen. If it was today or tomorrow. So
True.
It wasn't because he threw 95 pitches and he threw 100. He was supposed to only throw 95 pitches. That wasn't the reason why he blew his arm out.
I think another thing to consider too, I think that upper baseball management, the GM and the back office and the owners and stuff, I think have a lot more of a hand in the everyday baseball operations. Usually, back then, a lot of the times the manager was just handed the team and go ahead. But now, you have the back office analytics and stuff, and not for nothing, but with how much money is in baseball anymore, these guys are protecting their investments, and so I think that plays into it too.
Yeah, they'd rather be smart and be like, hey, we didn't put you in harm's way to get hurt, and then if you got hurt, hey, we did the things the right way, it just happened.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, hey, let's push him, and then he gets hurt, and it's like, well, we could have done this different.
Right.
You rather play safe and play smart, and then if he gets hurt, all right, whatever.
Right.
But you don't want to be like, hey, let's, we could, if something happens here, we just jeopardize him and our team for the next couple of years. So that's kind of where they're at. They'd rather be safe than sorry. But
right.
Push comes to shove, you try to win a World Series. I was reading something about Matt Harvey the other day because I wanted to read up on kind of what scouts and people said why his career kind of took the downfall, and he said he wouldn't change a thing. He wanted to pitch that game. He wanted to pitch. If they would have won that World Series and he would have blew his arm out and never pitched again, he would have been the happiest guy in the world. He would have got that World Series ring.
Yeah. Agreed.
So it's like, do you risk pushing him a little bit? If it comes to winning, Chapman, the Cubs, pitched him till his arm fell off.
Yeah.
He won a World Series. And it really hasn't affected his arm.
No.
But the idea was he might have. But they won the World Series. So would he take that trade off? I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And he got paid.
Yeah,
money,
yeah.
Won a World Series, and really he hasn't really had any major issues to this day. So he got the trifecta.
Right.
For his.
Yeah, it worked out for him for sure. Worked out for the Cubs. Worked out for him. It's worked out for the Yankees for the most part. So yeah, there's definitely it's a case by case thing. I don't think that a standard across the board pitch count thing should be on. I think that there's moments where it works. There's moments where you protect your investment, you protect your pitcher. But there's times where it becomes a glaring flaw. Like I said, the Blake Snell thing. They just wouldn't pitch their guys past 5 innings. They just wouldn't do it.
And does that change a little bit of baseball too? Does it hurt baseball? I think it hurts baseball.
Me too.
With the Rays having that standard, this is how we do things. I think it kind of hurts the game.
Yeah, I think so too. I get the theory behind it. You keep changing the arms on these batters, and you're taking the innings and dispersing them out among different pitchers, so it makes it so that everyone's kind of getting similar wear on their arm and stuff. I understand the theory of it, but that doesn't mean I like it.
But then you need 8 guys to be on,
right?
Instead of 3 guys being on,
which you would ideally like to
every day.
Yeah, here's your starter, here's your setup man, here's your closer. Done. We're at we're going home.
Or it's just you don't have to pitch these guys. Like the Rays, they pitched them into the dirt last year.
Yeah.
Relievers. That's why you see Nick Anderson start struggling. He was pitching every day. 5, 6 outs, 2 innings, 1 inning, every day. Not used to that.
No.
Pitches maybe back-to-back days. Maybe one time he'll pitch 3 days in a row. Maybe. But then he's off for 2-3 days. He would pitch every single day. But your starter can't go 5 innings.
Yeah, it's like...
But he could pitch every single day, throw 30, 40 pitches every single day. It's like, so where are you?
Yeah, where's the cutoff?
Yeah, so it's a weird topic, but it's definitely something you're going to come across this year with last year's shortened season. It's definitely something we're going to see. And soon, we already heard about it, but you're going to see it with your own eyes here soon.
Yeah.
With some players, and Talion for the Yankees, Carlos Rodon, okay, only threw like 8 innings last year.
Mm.
You know, guys like that, you're going to see this. Especially those teams, especially the White Sox, you're expecting to go pretty deep in playoffs.
Mm.
He only threw 8 innings last year, and this year he's got shots on 230. That's quite a jump.
Quite a difference,
So what do they do? So we're gonna see it.
Sure.
We're gonna see it soon.
Yeah, and you know it's always a conversation around the playoffs too. Guys throwing a lot, especially bullpen guys. Bullpen's got guys really start to get stretched out in the playoffs anymore. So that becomes an issue too. Guys throwing like, I don't know, 70, 80 innings as a reliever. It's pretty taxing on the arm. So you know, it's becoming a similar theme in modern baseball with a lot of the teams. I think most teams follow that kind of, you know, to varying degrees.
The regular season is new baseball. The playoffs still goes back to old baseball. Older baseball.
Oh, yeah.
It's just how it goes.
Yep.
Sometimes you got a starter just going. Or sometimes a pull starter that's more new age. But then the relievers are just going.
Yeah.
But then it's also where, hey, we're trying to put ball in play. We're hitting, running. We're stealing. We're, hitting behind runners. We're bunting. You see more older baseball in the playoffs.
Yep.
Sometimes the pitching, taking the pitch, starting pitcher out, or even doing an opener. That's still some newer stuff. But you see more older baseball in the playoffs than you do in the regular season.
Yeah.
So when push comes to shove, it's like, well, this is kind of how we got to do things.
This is tried and true. It always works.
Yeah. So, it's just kind of funny how it works like that. But sometimes teams, they're locked in their ways. That's how they want to do it. And, they got to the World Series as early as, last year and, 2008, where their system, I think, was kind of starting at that point. But that idea of this is how we do things, it's got them to 2 World Series.
Yeah.
Hasn't won them one.
No, but I mean, they've been there. So I guess you can't really say that it doesn't work, and they're leading the division right now. So it works it works somehow.
Yeah,
but
I just don't know.
No.
That's the angle we want to go at, or that's the way. That's winning baseball.
Right.
It's like they win last year if they let Blake Snell go 6, 7, 8 innings. They win last year.
Sure, I think so. Makes a big difference.
And I think the Yankees lose that game this year if they pulled Garrett Cole 1-0 against the Astros.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's big time. I like when guys do that. That's the old school baseball, just letting him pitch. That's your guy on the mound. Like for the Rays, Blake Snell, that's your guy. Just let him go. If he's smooth sailing, what if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. I don't know. It's a lot more prevalent in modern baseball than it was back then. If you're an older fan and you watched in the 70s and 80s and this stuff, there was no pitch count on the screen, and Ron Guidry was out there throwing 150 pitches, and Nolan Ryan was throwing how many pitches?
Until he was 90 years old. Like, you threw 7, 8 innings, and then your closer came in for 2 or 3 innings, and that's just how it was every day.
Yep.
That's why relief pitchers won Cy Youngs and stuff like that, or MVPs and stuff, because they pitched just as many innings because they threw 3 innings out of the pop.
Yep. And they'd pitch every day. If they were needed, they were in there.
Yeah, never thought twice.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's it's a lot. If you're like us, you're a little younger. This is kind of the baseball that's really like we're gonna be watching for a while. I feel like. So we'll see what happens. Maybe baseball takes a turn, or maybe it even gets to the point where you're only seeing openers all the time. I don't know, but it's always an interesting conversation because it's really, really embedded in modern baseball now. So, but with that, let's move on to our news segment of the show. Just some little quick news updates here. Number one, Ramon Laureano was suspended. So on August 6th, Ramon Laureano of the Athletics was suspended 80 games for his violation of the MLB's Joint Drug and Treatment Program. The PED test came back positive for nandrolone, steroid injected into the muscles, and is a drug used commonly in previously PED cases. You'll remember Starling Marte tested positive for it, and Roger Clemens used a variant of this as well. So no stranger to the steroid era of this drug. Ramon Laureano gets suspended, being caught for it, which hurts the A's a little bit, considering that they beefed up their offense and now they lose a big part of it. So something to definitely watch out for. and kind of stinks that he'll miss the rest of the season, a little bit of next season. Number 2, according to the New York Post, the MLB and Barstool Sports are in significant talks about having midweek games on Barstool's main site. Both sides have declined to comment, and a source familiar with the information has called the negotiations quote about 50-50 end quote. So Barstool, what I think is interesting about this is I know a lot of people have varying opinions on Barstool, but what I think is interesting about this is that the hardest demographic for baseball to catch right now is the 18 to 35 demographic, and Barstool ranks really high in the 18 to 35 demographic of fans. So do you risk alienating your older fans, maybe that don't like Barstool, I think they're a bit crass and think that they're a bit over the top? Do you risk that for bringing in the younger guys that watch Barstool? The younger, they're predominantly 18 to 35 male audience is there. So, is it worth the chance at this? Who knows? This may not go through at all. But what do you think? Do you think it's good for baseball? I think it could work. I think that this could definitely work if they don't start making Barstool almost too integrated, because then you start to alienate people, I think.
No, I think it'll be fine. You just throw them on a different media outlet, essentially, in the middle of the week. You're not going to lose your older audience. They've been watching for 60, 70 years. Putting them on a different market for a game or two during the week is not going to hurt them.
Right.
But also what it does is it brings maybe, Barstool will have their baseball guys maybe do the game or something like that. It brings a different, basic to the game. Instead of having this, A-Rod maybe talking about he played, he knows, the ins and outs, and some analytic guys. Maybe you get a Barstool guy who is more of a common fan. Maybe that helps too. Yeah,
it's almost like you're sitting with your buddy watching a game.
When NFL did a playoff game almost on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
That concept where, maybe not quite that dumbed down, but that concept. And people really like that idea. Their kids really liked it. But it's a way to teach the game. So it's not going to be quite like that, but it'll be like that next level,
right?
Where it's like it's not just any schmo watching the game. It's a guy who knows what's going on, but also a way to talk, to the average guy,
right?
So it's not a bad idea. It's actually one of the better things MLB has done. They just got to be watched because Barstool does have their, rated R or whatever you want to call their kind of their website and podcasts and stuff like that. So you don't want to. Make your sport all of a sudden. Now you got the XFL running around.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I said. Do you risk going too overboard with it? Because Barstool is admittedly pretty abrasive, especially if you're not into that hardcore of sports. Those guys are, they do the gambling stuff, and like I said, they have a dominant male audience. They're very almost like a modern Spike TV.
Yeah. So New York attitude, Philly attitude.
Exactly.
What the hell's going on over here? Kind of things. It's so as long as they don't go too crazy or get like God forbid they get like Lenny Dykstra doing a game or something like that. You're just talking a ruckus.
I think it's good though that if they give them some rights to it and let them have some games, have them commentate, it gives. I think Barstool at this point is so big you can't avoid it if you're a sports fan, and I think the MLB jumping on it maybe first. And trying to get integrated with them first, I think, is good for baseball.
I think it's good, but also, you know what? It says the MLB like, hey, come in, knock on our door and come in. Somebody, you want the games? You'll take them.
Yeah,
we're open to it. Come in here. You got an idea? We'll listen. We're not just stuck here. We're not just in here like NFL jumping in with Amazon. That's a little bit more money thing I think than
I'm assuming,
a fan grab. But knock on the door. We'll listen.
Yeah, especially.
You got an idea? You want to grab fans in? Feel the Dreams thing was one of the notes here. You got Feel the Dreams coming up. Williamsport. Listen, we'll listen. So that's a good thing for the MLB. They're not just like, hey, we're boxed in. Let's just go about days here. They're trying, and which is what they need to do. It's stuff that we talked about in the off season. How to bring fans in, and the younger fans. And I think MLB's actually doing a relatively good job with that. And other stuff they're not, they struggle with, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah, and that's like I said, their hardest demographic. Actually, believe it or not, the MLB's best demographic is 18 to 35-year-old people. So if you catch the younger people too, if you get 18 to 35, and then you got 35 to 45 or whatever the demographic was, because the older
to 55, I think, or 52.
Yeah, because you got the people 65 and over, they're fans. They're not gonna be affected by this.
Yeah.
But if you can get the two demographics up to 50 years old, you know.
I mean, I don't want to jump into this and make it almost our topic here, but not for nothing, but when you're a younger kid, you're home. And when you're older, you're home.
It's true.
When you're 16 and 18 to 30 years old, you're not home as much. You're out doing things, but also, or you know, in your 30s, you have your own family and stuff like that, so you're not really sitting down watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cousin of mine's got his kids and they're playing baseball. He doesn't get to watch the games as much as he used to.
It's true.
So that demographic's harder to obtain, but now Barstool, which is a streaming, and they have their podcasts and stuff like that, they could get it at the phone.
It's a good
You
point.
can grab it on your phone, which maybe you can watch it or listen to it while you're at your son's game or your daughter's dance or your game or whatever they're at. You can get it on your phone. You can get it. So when you're younger, you're home and you're playing your video games and crap like that. You're whatever. And when you're older, you got more time.
Yeah.
But that demographic's hard to lock in. That's why football does a great job. It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Not much goes on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at 1 o'clock. So if you're doing Sunday and travel baseball and stuff like that, it's in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to walk in at 1, 2, 3 o'clock and get your stuff, you know, watch your football or Monday night and stuff like that. You get your one day a week. Baseball's all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're never just not doing anything all the time.
Yep.
So I think that's their big thing too. It's being able to grab people however we can grab them.
Yeah. I think it's a smart deal for both of them, and you know, the source said 50-50, so who knows, it may not go through, but I think it'd be good for baseball. I do.
But it's also just opening up the idea of, hey, knock on our door, we'll listen.
Right.
Even if it doesn't go through, it kind of went. It
Yeah.
kind of works for them anyway.
Right, because baseball is bad with that, with being able to just watch your game whenever, with blackouts and stuff like that. So
that's a whole different. But
yeah, so we'll see what happens. We may have more news on this next week or in the coming weeks.
yeah. So some other small news I got here. Like I said, I mentioned the Field of Dreams is coming soon. White Sox Yankees. That's a pretty cool idea. We had Adlai Rushman promoted to AAA. So recently regarded as the #1 prospect in baseball. So that's pretty cool for baseball fans and Oriole fans. Roy Halladay's number was retired yesterday for the Phillies, and Zach Wheeler pitched Roy Halladay's game against the Mets.
Sure did.
And we have some not great news. We had actually it ended up turning out to be better news than we hoped, but there was a reported racial slur that was heard in the Colorado Rockies game that turned out to be not true. They investigated it, and it became clear that it was not what was maybe thought to be said, the word. So that actually, it was a terrible news, turned into actually, you know, relief around baseball in Colorado and the, you know, fans and markets and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was pretty. When you first see it without knowing the context behind it, it seems pretty egregious. You know what happened, but thankfully it was just some fan trying to get the attention of the mascot. So
yeah, that was that was end up being, like I said, it ended up being a relief and better news than it really could have been.
right, right.
So they jumped on that relatively early and caught that and you know, stomped that into the ground. So that was relatively good work, and like I said, more of a relief than anything.
Yeah. Just one more quick thing before we get into our wrap up. Just a general observation, and some media outlets have been reporting on it, but COVID has been on the rise within the MLB. Positive COVID rates have been going up, partially due to the new Delta variant of the virus going around, breaking through vaccines and breaking through to people that were not wearing their masks and previously thought that they were safe around vaccinated people. The group, the herd immunity mentality. So CDC expressed concerns about it. Mask recommendations have been popping up. So just a general thing to be mindful of. I'm sure some of your favorite ball clubs, you're seeing some guys go on the COVID list. Like, what the hell? So I don't think we'll quite see anything like we saw in 2020, but it is something to be mindful of and just be careful. MLB players and fans who are going to the game should be just more mindful of.
The knowledge of the public and the knowledge of the public, the leagues, the people, fans, players, it's more understood.
Right.
When something brand new comes in, you're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to die, whatever else is going to happen, It's like the idea of the snowstorm kind of thing. People go out and go, stuff for last year for 2 weeks because you just don't know. That's kind of gone, the idea of knowing it now. So I don't think we'll ever, hopefully never get back to where we were. The idea of maybe, things limited again a little bit. Obviously it's a possibility, but I think we're in a better spot now to fight or have an idea. It's like you can't hit what you can't see,
Right.
and that's kind of how last year was.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing because you don't know what's going on.
No. Right.
So now you know what you can see, so you can kind of hit it.
Right. Right. You have some idea, so there's something to go off of. So, like I said, it's just something to be mindful of, and some media outlets are starting to report it, and you might see some limitations start to happen in bigger cities like New York and LA and stuff like that. But just wanted to bring that up just to be mindful if you're watching your favorite team and all of a sudden everyone's like, if you're a Yankee fan, everyone's on the COVID list. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up. And then we, final piece here, we have the wrap up. So who's doing the best right now? The Giants still own the best record in the MLB at 71-41, with the Dodgers behind them in the NL at 67-45. Over in the AL, the Rays own the best record in the league at 68-44, and the White Sox and the Astros are right behind them at 66-46 apiece. The Dodgers own the best run differential in the league at plus 171, and the Diamondbacks still own the worst at minus 178.
Yeah. Some hot and cold teams here. I want to mention some hot teams. You got the Rays, Yankees, the Blue Jays, the A's, the Phillies, unbelievably hot. The Braves and Reds. Been some teams to look out for. They've been playing good. Phillies, all the way in first place now. The A's right back. They're like a game out. Yankees jump back into it. Braves back in second place. I mean, these teams. There's this hot streak has pushed them right into the hunt. Some cold teams who are maybe letting these teams back in the hunt. We're looking at the Red Sox, Astros, the Mets, Nationals, Cubs, and Pirates. Some teams that have been struggling over the last 10 games or so.
Maybe law of averages are finally starting to work out for some of these teams. Mariners kind of fading. Yankees are back in there. Braves are back in there. Phillies. Well, that whole NL East division is pretty still is a pretty crapshoot. So
the idea of them they're supposed to be the best division in all baseball has probably the lowest win percentage of any division.
Got to be right there with. Save the White Sox with the AL Central. The AL Central's not great, but collectively the NL East is all like just
You're only a couple
mediocre.
Games over 500.
Yeah, they're all just there to some degree. So
yeah, it's just that the muddling from April's never cleared up.
The one East division, if you said the East would be good, you got the AL East is probably the best division with the Rays, Red Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays really all vying for playoff spots. So at least the one East division is pretty good. But so let's move on then to our hot and cold players of the week. Who's hot and who's not. So like I usually do every week, I like to bring up the players of the week. So number 1 and 2. Number 1, CJ Cron is the NL player of the week. He batted .556 over the last week with a 12.78 slugging and a 19.14 OPS. Number 2, the AL player of the week is George Springer. 357 average over the last week with an 857 slugging and a 1244 OPS, and I believe a really clutch home run to get them the game against the Red Sox, maybe Sunday or Saturday or something.
Yeah, make a comeback. Also, CJ Cron, real quick, just like go back to your list here. I believe he became the first Rocky to have 3 Grand Slams in one season. I believe he was. He had 7 RBIs in the first 3 innings the day of a game.
God.
But I believe he became the first Rocky to have 3 Grand Slams in one season. I believe that was what the stat was.
Yeah, he can. Sometimes he turns it on. He's really good, especially with the power stats. Yep. Number 3 here, Starling Marte. 500 average over the last week with an 833 slugging and a 1333 OPS. Number 4, Trevor Story. 478 average and 913 slugging and a 1469 OPS. And number 5, Jesse Winker. A 474 average with a 1000 slugging and a 1600 OPS over the last week.
Yeah, some other guys here I got. Arias for the Twins.
Mm-hmm.
He was up over the 500s for his last 7 games played or so. Manuel Margot, hitting the ball well. And Trent Grisham, Padres. Some other guys there who are hitting the ball pretty well over the last 10 games or so. Some pitchers to take a look at. Blake Snell pitching good recently. He's kind of been up and down, mostly just kind of down this year. Max Fried pitching well. Another one's kind of just been muddling around.
Mm-hmm.
Luis Heel. Some people would think it's Gill. It's Heel.
Yep.
Now that we know, 2 starts, 2 shutouts. Not full complete game shutouts, but shutouts in respected innings.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Bundy, a good starter too here recently. Really been having a bad year. And Alex Colomé, pitching pretty well. I think he had 3 saves and 3 third scoreless innings over his last 7 days. So maybe he's kind of bouncing around. But yeah, obviously the Twins, 40 games out of whatever they are in the playoffs. So turning around now. So. Yeah, I guess you never know. but
Well,
I would imagine.
A little late on him figuring it out, huh?
Yeah,
Would have helped
or
early in
rest
the
of that
season.
team.
Yeah, sure.
But
But moving on to the cold player list, the who's not. Number 1, Pete Alonso. 0 for his last 19 with a 0 slugging, a 296 OPS. Probably a big contribution to, the Mets' cold streak because he was, as well as the rest of the team, was pretty hot.
yeah,
So
we mentioned looking forward to last year,
Mhm.
last week, I should say. But also, have you seen his post-game interview? Not to worry, Alonso. He said to the Mets fans. Some Mets fans are loyal. Someone's jump up and down, he said, or jump on and off. But he said not to worry. I don't know, 3 days, you went from first place to third place, and you are not scoring runs, so I think it might be time to worry a little bit. But Alonso says not to worry, so I guess you'd take his word for it, I guess. I would be worried.
With that division, I guess that's the only reason you wouldn't be worried is that division's pretty.
Well, they're due to get hot at some point.
Yeah.
And the Phillies have done that.
Right.
The Braves do that. All of a sudden, you're a little cold streak, they're a little hot streak, you're out of it.
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
7 games out, and you're chasing 2 teams.
Yeah, it's like,
And there's not a wild card spot really sitting there.
Yeah, with the Dodgers and Padres. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. It's you're almost mid-August.
Yeah, all of a sudden you get caught with your pants down and you got 2 teams running by you. It's like, this time of year, it's crazy.
Yeah, and no one's walking through that door to change the difference.
No.
The ground's not getting on the mound tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what's really hurting them too. They're the typical Mets injuries. But anyway, the number 2 cold player I have is Travis Jankowski, batting .050 over the last week with a 100 slugging and a 236 OPS. Number 3, Yoan Moncada, batting .105 over the last week with a 158 slugging and a 478 OPS. Number 4, Brent Rooker with a 115 average, a 231 slugging, and a 409 OPS. And number 5, Ozzie Albies, a 130 average over the last week with a 261 slugging and a 547 OPS. So those are your cold players.
Yeah, some other guys to take a look at. Been struggling recently. Justin Turner has been a little bit on the cold streak. Also, I believe he was left the game yesterday. Marked day to day. I think he had tightness in his groin or something.
Oh, okay.
Brandon Marsh, prospect for the Angels, been struggling a little bit. And Max Stassi, who was really was playing great there for the Angels for a little while. Been on a cold streak. Some pitchers to take a look at. Zach Davies had been struggling yesterday. 3 home runs the first inning against the White Sox. He was getting smashed around. Zach Plesac, not pitching that great. John Lester, his first 2 starts with the Cardinals. Ryu's, I think, relatively been down all year. I mean, not terrible, but been down all year. I think his last start or so, he's just like got a 6 ERA. And Matt Barnes beat up. I went on the COVID list for a little while, and then came back and he's been getting beat up. It was a big part of the Blue Jays coming back and beating them. The other day,
Yep.
was him. So those are some players to look at who are not doing that great, or pitchers, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Some of these guys, they're on the cold list and their team's cold. So, especially, like you said, Matt Barnes. The Red Sox, he's been locked down all year, and all of a sudden, a little shaky.
So to get to the next part here, we can go into some injuries. Not awful on their injury news. Could be better, but not the worst thing. Mountcastle placed in the IL for the Orioles. Gleyber Torres recently placed in the IL. Rizzo, the COVID IL. Chapman on the IL with some elbow inflammation, but on the better side of that. Sanchez, COVID IL. Anthony Rendon, season-ending hip surgery, so he's done for the year. Javier Baez left the game with discomfort in his hip. Jason Hayward on the IL. Kyle Freeland left to start early. Ramil Tapia left the game early. So that's pretty much where I got some bigger names for the newer injuries. On the more better side of the injury news, we have Chris Sale to be activated Saturday and to make his comeback. He's been pitching great in the minors. I am so happy. I do not like the Red Sox. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But I love Chris Sale. He's probably one of my favorite players in all of baseball and has been for a while. Of course, he will come back, and the Red Sox won't score for him. That's just Chris Sale's MO. But,
Sure.
Glad to see him back. Glad to see him back Saturday. Luke Voigt returned. Urshela was trending in the right direction. Had a little bit of a setback. They said it's a minor setback, so he's still kind of trending in the better direction. Shane Bieber said he feels great throwing the ball. I guess he was playing catch the other day, long toss. He said he feels great. Luis Robert activated. He's back today. Great for baseball and the White Sox. Grandal's improving. Jared Walsh expected to be back here in the next couple days. James Caprillion for the A's. A great story. He's back. He pitched yesterday. Pitched pretty well. Christian Yelich was activated recently. Jack Flaherty is supposed to be coming back for the Cardinals soon. They could really use him. Castellanos is back. Playing good. Moustakas is back. Kershaw was placed on the 60-day DL, but is expected to be back at the beginning of September. We have Brandon Belt's returned and had a couple home runs recently, and Tatis is improving and actually taking some reps in the outfield as a possibility utility guy. But some big names that returned or had better news, which is good too.
Yeah, that's always if you have that second list of people coming back bigger than the other one, then it's always a good week.
Yeah,
for sure.
So to get to our last thing, we talked about pitch limits and innings and pitch count, and we just mentioned some pitchers coming back from injury and whatnot. Our trivia question goes kind of with that, and who was the first pitcher to have Tommy John and to make the Baseball Hall of Fame? And this was recent news. This is more recent.
Right.
The answer was in 2015, John Smoltz. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he was the first pitcher to get the Tommy John surgery and make it to the Hall of Fame. He did it really in the middle of his career. 31, he got Tommy John, came back as a reliever, had all those saves. That's why he has that stat. I think he's like the only pitcher, 250 wins and 150 saves or something like that.
Probably so, yeah, something in that ballpark.
He came back and then he began to start again. So he had a great career after his Tommy John. So it's that was early 2000s. Obviously they get used to doing that surgery and get used to it and more details on how to do it and how to deal with it. So it obviously makes sense as you get better or as you get more used to doing that, the outcomes get better.
Right.
So we'll see more Hall of Fame guys from the Tommy John, but it's pretty cool to see that he was the first one. And that was 2015 he was inducted.
Yeah.
And a little side note there, the first player, or I guess he's known. I guess he's more known for. I guess you never really know back in the day. Kind of what their surgeries were, but
right.
More known player for the first one to get Tommy John and make it to the Hall of Fame not as a pitcher was Paul Malter, 2004. He received Tommy John at some point in his career and made it to the Hall of Fame. Would maybe explain why maybe he became more of a DH.
Right. Yeah. That's that. I couldn't get that one, but it makes sense. I was trying to think of guys that became DHs in their career because it would have made sense. All of a sudden you get Tommy John, earlier days of Tommy John. All of a sudden it's like, you just DH, you just hit and you'll be all right. So I couldn't I forgot about Paul Molitor.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so again, the first pitcher to receive Tommy John surgery and make the Hall of Fame was John Smoltz in 2015 when he was inducted. So that's the trivia question, and it kind of, like I said, kind of went along with our pitch limits, and then of course right at the end we talked about some injuries, so it kind of went along with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see Smoltz all the time too. Albie Neckwer, great analyst, and doing games, people are with him because he's not really excited and go crazy kind of guy, but doing an analyst and having listening to him and getting what he thinks is the guy's a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Right.
The guy knows baseball.
Right.
And he's been around with some unbelievable players, Maddox and Glavine and Chipper Jones and Andrew Jones. He's been around some guys, some organizations, Braves and the Cardinals. You got to take his word when he says something.
Right. Yeah. That was when I made my guesses. I was like, was it Maddox, Glavine, or Smoltz? Like they just go as a package, and they're all just such great pitchers. And my first guess was Tommy John, just because the originator. But I guess he's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't know his career stats or anything, but I would have thought that he would have made it at some point. His surgery's famous now, that's for sure. He's got a Hall of Fame surgery named after him.
He was a good pitcher too.
That's why I would have thought he made it in, but no, it's a good one. Smoltz, we're definitely going to see a lot of pitchers, almost probably every pitcher that's a Hall of Famer now is probably have Tommy John at some point. It just that seems that way, that everyone gets Tommy John. So it's not like an if, it's a when type deal.
Yeah.
So
there's guys you're going to see. Verlander.
Yep.
At this point, he's almost shoot in there, and we'll see the back end of Chris Sale's career here. There's a guy who was kind of heading in the right direction. This is two names.
Yeah.
And the almost direct, it's in the game right now.
Did Kershaw ever get Tommy John? Probably, right?
I don't think so. Maybe not as a professional player.
Maybe he'll escape it.
Maybe
but
college or...
Yeah, at some point. A lot of these guys end up getting it at some point. But
yeah.
But yeah, you'll see most of the guys go in with that surgery, which is kind of a shame because you miss, a year plus of your career. But if you get it more at the right time, it could work out for you.
They say last 7-8 years is the expected guaranteed last of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird. So if you get it early on, you're DeGrom. This is his 11th year since he had Tommy John.
Right. So it's almost borrowed time, and the way he's throwing, putting a lot of stress on the arm. So
yeah, only going faster and faster. So if you get it when you're you're 24 years old and you have 7 or 8 years of more like, hey, you're gonna make it 7 or 8 years.
Right.
After that's just gravy.
Yeah.
You're 24, 7 or 8 years. You're 31, 32. You're in the prime.
Yep.
You get it like Smoltz did. You're just kind of 30 years old. Yeah, you're missing a prime year, but 7 or 8 years, you're late 30s.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, maybe that number goes up too on the average of how long kind of it lasts. Now that it's getting better, maybe it's 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 10 years. I don't know. DeGrom's 11, but I don't know. He's got some elbow issues, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think that's going to turn out to be. I think we all know where that's heading.
Right. Once you see forearm and elbow stuff, it's like, well.
And then he threw again and had his issues again. He said it felt a little bit different, but it still didn't feel great in his elbow.
Yeah, it's, you saw it with Glass now. It's better to just say, hey, I got to get it, rather than play around with it, and then all of a sudden you miss more time than you should have. So
Yeah, and it is a big decision because it's a year to a year and a half to, as we've seen Sale.
Yeah.
I mean, they took the really slow approach, and I think it's going to work out for them because his velocity and his control is actually relatively back in his minor league starts, so maybe it's working out. But, if you want to rush it, and you're talking 12 months, we've seen Syndergaard. He's still not back.
I know.
Set back. So, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, yep.
It's really tough. So, and
Sure.
then the velocity being way up, we don't know how that's going to
Yeah.
last on people's arms either. So, we're in a weird age for the pitcher. But I guess we'll see what happens here in the future.
Yeah, sure. But that's kind of all I got though for this episode of Screwball. That's kind of all I had in my notes and in the news. So I don't know what else you got to finish this up here, but
no, that's it. We kind of hit everything here. Talked about a lot. Went into a lot. It was a good episode.
yeah, definitely.
So a lot of news, a lot of stories, and a lot of opinions, and that's kind of what you want. So yeah, it's I have week 19 of the season. I guess that makes sense.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So I have here in my notes. That's a long ways.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Glad we had a full season rather than last year's mess of just a year everything. But yeah, so if that's it, then I guess we'll wrap it up and get out of here.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, well, thank you guys for listening. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod. No E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep, take care.